Why are you struggling to split absolute value inequalities in algebra? Have you ever found yourself puzzled when trying to split absolute value inequalities in algebra? You are not alone. Many learners face challenges with this topic. Understanding absolute value is key to solving these inequalities effectively. The absolute value of a number, written as the absolute value of x, represents its distance from 0 on the number line. This distance is always a non-negative value. For example, the absolute value of 3 is 3, and the absolute value of -3 is also 3. When you encounter an inequality involving absolute value, you are describing a range of values based on distance. This needs to be expressed as two separate inequalities. There are two main forms of absolute value inequalities, less than and greater than. Each form requires a different approach when splitting them. For less than inequalities, like the absolute value of x is less than p, the solution indicates that the distance from 0 is less than p. This can be rewritten as a compound inequality. -p is less than x and x is less than p. This means that x lies between -p and p. On the other hand, for greater than inequalities, such as the absolute value of x is greater than p, the distance from 0 is greater than p. This is split into two separate inequalities connected by the word or. X is less than -p or x is greater than p. This indicates that x lies outside the interval between -p and p. Common difficulties arise when learners try to remember when to use and versus or. Less than inequalities translate into and compound inequalities, while greater than inequalities translate into or inequalities. It can also be tricky to remember to reverse the inequality symbol correctly when splitting greater than inequalities. Handling the negative sign inside the absolute value can be confusing too. When you split the inequality, the second inequality involves negating the expression inside the absolute value. Visualizing the solution on a number line can help, but it may take practice to get comfortable with it. To solve absolute value inequalities, follow these practical steps. First, identify the form of the inequality, whether it is less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Next, remove the absolute value by writing the appropriate two inequalities based on the form. After that, solve each inequality separately. Combine the solutions using and for less than inequalities and or for greater than inequalities. Always check your solutions by plugging values back into the original inequality. Finally, graph the solution set to visualize the range of values. Understanding how to split absolute value inequalities is important because it connects the concept of distance on the number line with algebraic expressions. This skill is essential for solving problems involving ranges and constraints. By focusing on these basic ideas and practicing the step-by-step process, you can overcome confusion and confidently solve absolute value inequalities. Remember, the key is to think of absolute value as distance and to split the inequality into two parts that reflected that distance relationship.